Once upon a time, two boys grew up playing hockey in the village of Terrace, British Columbia. One of them went on to play in the National Hockey League. The other became a comedian. Now, one flies planes and coaches youth hockey. The other is still a comedian and owns newscasts. This is their podcast, Enjoying Orange Slices with Jeff and Ian.
The show is called Enjoying Orange Slices. My name is Ian. My name is Ian. That is Jeff. Millard's here. He's going to be here the whole time. It's our Christmas party. Enjoy to the world. Millard has come.
You guys bought the good booze too. That's well done.
Yeah.
This is outstanding.
Yeah, enjoy your water. If you had any talent, you'd be able to turn that into wine.
There's no water in here. I can guarantee you that. And you'll be able to tell in about 30 minutes.
That's fine.
Well, you gonna pass out.
It'll just become serious. And it won't be because you're listening to it on 0.5 on the podcast play. It'll just be because of Siri.
And then it'll do at 35 minutes it'll be. And let me tell you another thing about fucking TSN.
You never liked me. You never liked me.
And we could get you going on TSN and Sportsnet.
Oh, love it.
CBC. Hey, were you ever on, I know you're on Sportsnet and TSN, you're a big deal. Were you ever on CBC, like the Hockey Night in Canada?
Yes.
Did you?
Really?
When were you doing that?
When we did the national games and during the playoffs, sometimes we would get games thrown over on CBC if it was late enough in the playoffs. So the first year we did the Western Conference final, which was on CBC, Anaheim against Chicago, I believe, that year. So we did some Hockey Night games. It was a real thrill hearing that music and knowing you were actually on the network on Channel 6 where I grew up. I was on Channel 6.
Did you wear a blue? Would you wear a blue jacket?
No, I never got the blazer. No, I was never treated that well.
Sorry, I had to cough.
I quite honestly, I never was part of that era, so I didn't really deserve one.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
Yeah, but you were a big fan. What channel was it on back home, Ian? Was it 3?
I want a 7. 7? Was it 7?
7 sounds good. Yeah, that sounds good.
What was on 3?
I think it started on 3 and then moved to 7.
Oh, was that a big adjustment for you guys?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because you had to get up and turn it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was a pretty big adjustment. So we had CBC.
Darren, hold on, Jeff. Before, just to let you know, we came from money. We got up and we pushed a button.
Oh, really? Because we had to.
Yeah. That's.
And then we had to do the push in and dial in because sometimes the horizontal angles would be off and it was bad in the east.
And we had rotary to start. Yeah, we grew up. We rose from the ashes, and now you just tell your TV what you want.
The silver spooner over there didn't have to do it.
Rick Schroeder over here.
Yeah. Oh, well played. That was a good drop.
You were telling us about the channels, though, Jeff. Tell people about.
No, I mean, it's very exciting. Channel 6 in where was that? Brandon. Is that where you were? You were in Brandon. We were in Terrace. So we had CBC and CTV, and then we had King 5 coming out of Seattle, Cairo out of Seattle.
Who was sports there?
Tony Ventrella. Remember him?
Yeah.
Was he a god?
He played football.
He was awesome.
And he was just like, just
really.
I don't know. Was Tony that big? Tony was.
Yeah, he was just short, like a fire hydrant.
Yeah, Tony. Yeah.
Huh.
All right.
We had Grand Forks originally, and then they switched us to Detroit, and we got Bernie Smilowitz in Detroit. You probably remember him, a little bit sharps because he was WDIV in Detroit. Bernie Smilowitz. He had this. He's just a go-getter.
They ended up switching. That's the funny thing about our TV up there. We had Seattle coverage, and then all of a sudden it went to Detroit, and I think they still do. Their U.S. feed is
not a real geographic connection between Terrace, BC, and Detroit.
No, but there is.
The good part was you could watch Jeopardy at 3:00 and then play at 7 and kick everybody's ass in the room.
You sound like just the type of guy that might have tried that.
Just to have
maybe
a couple
not
extra questions. Yeah, just to surprise people.
You get the odd wrong just to keep everybody thinking that you're not the brainiac.
Yeah. Just
Boy,
get everything wrong, and then the final Jeopardy just get right, and just look
Bagg's
at it.
really been reading his encyclopedias lately.
He's really smart.
Britannica.
Jeff is mad because he was a Wheel of Fortune guy.
Oh yeah, you know what? I was more of a Price is Right guy, but that's even earlier in the day, right? Who wasn't a Price is Right person, right? Hey, wasn't talking about that Bob Barker? Was he ever at one of your shows?
No,
it was Dick Van Dyke, right?
Dick Van Dyke. Bob Barker lived around the corner in Hollywood. That's why.
Really?
Yeah,
but he never came to one of your shows.
Nah, he's just too busy
jerk
raking and snipping nuts off of dogs.
Yeah, that's exactly what he was doing. Patrolling the neighborhood, making sure there was no unwanted litters.
Yeah, he would do that. Yeah, he was a good guy. Good guy. We also, it was weird. It was a weird neighborhood that I lived in Hollywood. It was Bob Barker and then 3 of the guys from the Ramones.
Oh.
Yeah.
Did you ever go by when they jammed?
No, I just was always confused. I was like, look at those guys that look like the Ramones. And then finally somebody said to me, that is the Ramones.
They all look the same too.
Yeah.
Like, did you think it was just one guy that you saw a lot of?
Maybe it was just one guy, but it got that haircut and the leather jacket and the jeans. I was like, we did that guy dresses like the Ramones.
Well, how about when you were out walking? You used to brag all the time about all the stars you were running into on that trail.
He was bragging about walking?
Yeah. Look at me.
Well, yeah, well,
one leg after another.
I made it to 40 seconds.
Oh my goodness. I'm going too fast. I'm almost running.
There was a couple your neighbors there that you were Cameron Diaz, were you up there hanging out with her?
Wasn't hanging. I
walking by her.
I used to live at the bottom of Runyon Canyon, is where all the stars would go walking, right? And you'd see them all the time. You'd just be really surprised. And then every so often somebody would walk by and they'd be still in their star outfit. Just, I remember seeing Gene Simmons in his big boots walking.
No, there's no way Gene Simmons was walking in his boots.
Well, he wasn't wearing those boots, but they were big boots, And I was just like, oh, look at that. And he had a walking stick. And I'm like, look at that. Thunder God going for a walk.
Yet he could clomp around on stage with that guitar without a cane.
He came to a show this year, I
love that guy.
3 months ago, and he's wearing leather pants, and he looked fantastic. And I was just like, this is insane. And then his wife showed up, and she was almost as tall as him. And she was I was just like, this couple, there's some sort of blood that they're drinking at night to be able to stay there.
Saskatoon, Saskatchewan.
Saskatoon.
From.
No, I thought she's from
Vancouver.
I think she's.
We're arguing over Gene Simmons' wife. She's from Vancouver. We're taking her.
She's ours.
Where do you think she's from, Bagg?
I think she's from the Newfoundland.
So you're making that up?
No, I'm being serious. I swear she's from Newfoundland.
Okay. Well,
how did you pick Saskatoon?
Because I have a buddy that lives in Saskatchewan, and he loves to claim everybody. Like anybody from the Gap is right. Like he just clamors onto it. Like they're from here. They're from here. So I've heard that several times from him. If he's talked about them, they must be from there. That's Chris Oscar from Kindersley.
And they call it the Gap?
The Gap, because it's the gap between Alberta and Manitoba.
I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
They should dress way more preppy.
Do not bring that up to Chandler Stevenson, because we did a road trip story last year, a Canadian road trip story, and I had brought up that it was called The Gap, and Ashley Weiss, our Rinkside reporter, went over, who was doing the story, and told Chandler that they call it The Gap. He's like, who calls it The Gap? She's like, Millard. And I happened to be close by. I'm like, no. People from Saskatchewan don't really know that we call it The Gap. And Chandler's like, you're from Manitoba. Like, it's just as bad. Like, don't be insulting us. So Chandler and I had we had a little bit of a cold spell in our relationship. But
no way.
The Gap.
You still holding on to it?
Well, I insulted his homeland.
Well, you got to be careful. My mom's from Saskatchewan too. So in essence, you insulted me as well and my family. So
I guarantee your mom just threw one of Jeff's mom just threw one of his old trophies at the computer right now.
It is a bit of a gap, though. You understand why it would be called a gap?
Because there's nothing there.
Yeah, it's just between Manitoba and Alberta. And Chandler's point was, if we're going to call it the Gap, Manitoba should be included in that, because they're no better than Saskatchewan. It should be between Ontario and Alberta.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. What do you have over like Saskatchewan? Like what do you guys got, your trump card? What are you going to pull out and say, this is what we have over Saskatchewan or any other province?
We have 4 hills to your 1. So that's that right there. We're bigger than you, literally. We're bigger than you, and figuratively. And we have more lakes. We have a big old saltwater bay up there. And we have some awesome polar bears and whale watching.
Okay,
should I go on?
Yeah. We only have 40 minutes, but yeah, I mean, it's up to you.
I was actually just given an offer for Winnipeg, so if you could keep selling it, I might take the gig.
Oh, I'll go with you.
Yeah. It's at the end of the year. It's in May. At the end of the hockey season. Sorry, not the end of the year.
I was like, are we back into Columbus being in the Western Conference again? Because I just got an offer on a gig at the end of the year in May, and I'm doing my January, February, March, April. Like, May is not the end of the year.
There's only 5 months in the year. So
does the entertainment industry work on a different calendar than the
absolutely we do?
Yes, they do. Yeah,
we do.
And
we go by how many pairs of leather pants Gene Simmons has. 5 at the end of the year.
She's from Saskatchewan. I want a prize if I'm right, and I will give you guys a prize if she's from either Newfoundland or Vancouver or the Lower Mainland.
And by the way, do you know what British Columbia calls the rest of Canada?
No.
The other.
Really?
Yeah. British Columbia and the other. That's what we call it.
Well, doesn't British Columbia like to claim Alberta once in a while because they kind of got some cool stuff over there? Or is it
we just go along that big we go along the Rockies and then we just push the rocks that we don't want into Alberta.
So the Maritimes, they feel slighted by everybody.
Yes.
Being a taxpayer in the Maritimes, I'm used to that, and it's the most wonderful part of the world. Quebec is isolated just based on language, and I have no idea how they tolerate those of us that don't speak the language. Ontario feels superior to everybody.
Yeah.
BC is the new kids in the block who just are hip and young and cool and say, we don't need you. And Alberta's kind of grown into a bit of arrogance as well. Who's the most either paranoid or high and mighty?
Like who looks down on everybody?
Yeah.
I would say it's Ontario and Alberta.
Not BC.
Really? Well, Alberta's
I would
like
put BC in there.
BC's where everybody goes after they're finished college. That's what that is. It's basically it's the cool part you go to until you get an actual job and then have to move someplace else.
And then you have to go back.
Yeah, you have to go back. Well, that was fun. And then you go someplace else and live your life and then go there so often and show people where you lived in BC. Alberta thinks they pay for everything in Canada. If it wasn't for us, this country would be dead. Right? Yeah. Right. And then there's Ontario. This is where all the banking happens. So don't get out of control because we got all the money. If you want,
we'll decide the election before you even vote.
Yeah. It's already done. Yeah. And then Quebec is kind of wishy-washy. Sometimes they want to be part of us. Sometimes they don't. I like you. I don't like you. I like you. I don't like you. I like
grade 11 dating scene.
Yeah. Shea Perry.
Well, I didn't go there. I didn't go there for my.
Yeah, you weren't dating anybody from there, were you?
No.
We all wanted to.
Yeah, big admirer.
Well, you can say what you want about Quebec, but Montreal is unbelievable.
That'd be a great thing to say next time you go into a bar like Shea Perry. When you get a dance. Big fan.
Big fan. It's one of those where you're not allowed to say, been following your career for a while now. Nope.
Everybody at home is excited about you. They're all proud of the work you've done. Pull a Doug on them.
Rob Faltz took me there. The first time I was in Montreal, Rob Faltz took me there and said, it's a rite of passage. You got to go here.
Absolutely.
Hey, so I have a question. I just figured that out. That hat says Toba. Is that like short for the second greatest province in Canada?
Look, the Manitoba.
That's pretty cool.
That's cool.
Yeah,
That
it's
is
made
cool.
out of, it's made in Killarney, Manitoba, little small town just outside of Brandon. They make these hats.
And
So
do they do other clothes?
They do Ontario. I don't know whether they do BC. I'll check though, because if they do BC, I'll be getting you guys a couple. But my brother, who was just down, my twin brother, brought one for my wife and I. She has Ontario. It's Terrio and Toba.
I like it.
Yeah, I represent, baby.
Hey, so do you ever get in an argument with that lovely wife of yours over how great Manitoba is compared to Ontario, or
No.
you guys just put that to bed?
Okay, this. I'm gonna get in trouble for this, so you can edit this out if you want. All right.
Never.
She's from Hamilton.
Ooh.
which means the best part about that is she can never make fun of Manitoba.
Yeah.
So you can edit that out if you want, but that's what I tell her all the time. Look, you're from Hamilton, so don't be making fun of Manitoba. She just chooses not to go to Manitoba.
We're not going to edit that out, and I'm going to add on to it. She cannot make fun of Manitoba, but then she'll put you in a headlock and give you noogies the whole time because she's the toughest woman on the block.
Just send me for a bike ride. Oh yeah, good point.
Yeah,
like when you go to Ivor Wynn or downtown Hamilton, you have to, on your way to the stadium, you have to go by the bikers. That's intimidating. Like there's intimidating places to play. The Spectrum was an intimidating place to play back in the day. But Hamilton, going past the biker clubhouses, that sent shivers down your spine.
Hey, well, let's just talk about how tough your wife is, because you don't ride that kind of bike. You ride a different kind of bike. And recently,
I have no idea what that means.
That
motorcycle,
bikers.
Yeah,
you're not running around with a jacket on. You're right.
No.
You're running around in tights and all the stuff you bikers wear. Like, I don't want to muddy the water. So we're not talking about the same kind of biker, but to talk about how tough a gal your wife is, your bike just got totaled recently. What's the next thing she did the next morning for you? What'd she do for you?
What did she do?
Didn't she buy you a new bike?
Oh yeah. Well, she started looking out at different things that to make, because she knows how passionate I am, but she also knows that it's going to eventually cause my demise. So it's a win-win. Either I get to feel good about myself, or I disappear from the earth. So I get to feel good about myself, or she gets to hang out with Carlos a lot more. It's great for her, right?
Oh my goodness.
Well, here's
I don't like it, Millard. I don't like you biking anymore. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't want you out there on the roads with the people.
That was the day we were supposed to do this. We were going to do this, and I said, "No,
I'm going for a bike ride."
And then, boom! I should have done this.
Yeah, always do this. That's what my mom said.
Well, you guys are such good planners. I got 12 hours heads up for today, and that is like 3.5 weeks in regular society.
Well, just to let you know, we start planning this on Sunday, and then we make our decision this morning.
So, you've been asked 3 weeks in a row.
I know,
because
5 minutes ahead of time.
So no, you've been asked, and I don't know if you bumped your head recently or something, but you've been asked.
Bumped your head
far in advance. So but this was good, because trying to organize the three of us, because everyone's going a separate direction.
And now you got to go drive a Zamboni. You don't have that much time.
No,
Jeff bought an arena today.
Yes,
I've never driven a Zamboni. Have you guys?
What do you know? I have no idea. I would go through the end walls. I'd end up in the street on that thing, because ice is slippery, and I'd be going too fast, and I would end up going through the boards.
You take your time. Don't take her up. You don't rev it up to 20,000 RPMs, and then
but the teams are both watching you, and you gotta get going, and then I'd leave a big strip right down the middle. You ever play where the guy is obviously hammered and leaves the big strip of uncleaned ice right down the middle?
Well, that's exactly why I got to drive the Zamboni. Old Dougie there was all liquored up, and
so you did it.
Yeah,
you drove it in Terrace.
Yeah, in Terrace.
Seriously,
Sivs was all 10 sheets to the wind. This guy was awesome. He had put gasoline in his carburetor and then leaned over top of it, and it was wearing a nylon toque, and it melted to his head. Yep, and he's the same guy that let me drive the Zamboni and clean the ice so we could play at midnight.
Hey, did you ever have a guy growing up that, like, when the Zamboni doors were open, like, they just lose it on you. Siv was that guy, eh? Siv was awesome. I tell you what, if that door was open a crack and you tried to get on the ice,
tried to
Siv
get on the ice,
would open it and lose his mind. So note to all the young hockey players out there, if you see the door open a foot, don't even bother getting on the ice, because it triggers the guys that drive Zambonis. Siv had the greatest outside voice too.
You know why? It's because Ted and Leon went out there in a men's league game the night before and started ripping pucks off the crossbar and nailed Dougie in the shin and the shoulder, and he's pissed off. So
that's exactly what happened.
In the years that I've matured, I started to understand why Dougie was such a cranky pants with that.
Doug was awesome, but he was also cranky at the same time.
He did a great job on the ice, and you know what?
And skates.
That's a gift, and he could sharpen skates. So Doug Sivier is the guy we're talking about here. Doug could, and he knew the game, but he could do the ice as good as anyone, because that's a gift. Like, it's great if no one's coming on for 45 minutes or an hour to absolutely flood it. But when it's going, you got to get that ice clean, got to get it so it'll set, so the next group can come on. I always tip my hat, because you see it all the time. You see the good ones and the not so good ones, and Siv was top shelf at that.
It was great. Big shout out to Doug Siviak.
Yeah,
I wouldn't use the Zamboni. I would have just done what the curling people do. Like, they run up and down the ice with a hose. That seems a little bit safer.
Hey, don't you wish that they, back when we played, that even if they give it to the players to shovel the ice like they do, like even halfway through the game, the difference it makes. Yeah. Like when the ice crews come out for the NHL and the American League games and shovel the ice, it's amazing the difference it makes.
I find it helped my game, the more snow that was out there.
Just a big pile in front of you.
There wasn't as big of a talent discrepancy between myself and the good players.
What you could do with that snow in front of you is slow down a puck. So by the time it got to you, it was going 1 mile an hour.
Because I knew that I was getting pulled eventually, so that snow was going to be my ultimate defense.
That's funny.
Well, but you could also hide the puck under the snow on the side of the net, because it was like an avalanche had come down, right? But like, there's 3 feet of snow on both sides.
I do that with our skates. I always put it on the right-hand side, and then every now and then somebody will go by and they'll disturb it, and I'll have to start.
Let's talk about the goal line right now. Should you think it needs to be changed? Because there's too much,
more crooked.
No, more zigzag. But like, should the net be in front of the goal line or behind? Like, there's got to be some sort of way to, get it. So if the puck is at a certain place, it's a goal. Yeah. Like, there's too much discussion about it right now.
There's no way to clearly guarantee that you can see every puck go across the line.
Right.
That there's not going to be somebody in front of you, or that there's not going to be an angle that may throw off whether that puck is across the line. There's no 100% definitive way that you can guarantee, no matter what the situation is, that puck either crossed the line or did not.
Yeah, but
if you move the line a little bit, could you?
No, because there's so many moving players out there. I don't think.
But if the line is, if the line is in front of the net, right?
Yeah.
And then the puck has to, if it's by that, right? It's
I know what you're saying, but you can't have a camera angle.
You still can't,
because now the cameras will be instead of being right over top, or hopefully right over the top, they might be on a little bit of an angle. And the overhead, the overhead shot that they'll show the goalie in the crease, those are attached to beams in the rafters, and there's no guarantee that those beams right now even are going to be perfect over the goal line. It's just one of the quirks of our game that will, unless you put a chip in the puck and be able to and be able to marry it to the goal line, that you're going to be able to determine whether that puck actually.
Where do you, if you put the chip in, where do you put the other chip? Is it in the white, or is it on the goal?
How about
line?
On the post?
Because
what about the post?
But what part of the puck has to be over right now?
All the way across the line, so it'd have to be in the white of the goal.
It'd have to be in the white, right? Yeah.
So why wouldn't you use the post? Okay, because so
it doesn't
with
matter
the innovation. I guess the post could get moved, but
and the post could get moved, but also the post is irrelevant. It's whether or not it's in the white, like inside the net.
I
That's where
agree,
you
but
need to
what
be able
we're
to.
trying to do is we're talking about putting a chip in the puck, which I can't believe with today's innovation that we can have a million camera angles and we can see a blade of grass in an NBA or NFL game to see if a guy caught the ball or not, but we can't figure out in hockey because it's not like, I mean, there's some goal scoring going on, but it's so often that the goalie's pad and all his gear, you know, pulls the puck back out. I just think definitively put a chip in the puck, find a way to marry it with that goal line, and you know what, you got it. I mean, I think that's the best you can do. But
How many chips are
maybe
going to be in the puck after a while, though?
I hope they're Lays, because I like Lays.
Oh.
Or I like Old Dutch too. Like those are that's a Western.
Hey, how
Canadian
about
Old Dutch.
cheesies? You like cheesies?
Cheesies, Hawkins cheesies are the best ever.
No, the cheesies, because then I get an orange face because I'll be like scratching my face, and then people will know that I've been eating the cheesies.
You don't have to eat them right out of the bag.
Oh.
You don't have to like stuff the bag in your face.
No, but I got them in my hand, and then I scratch my ear and stuff, and then I've got orange all down the side of my head.
We got to teach you about a sink where you can wash your hands.
Again, I'm from the east end of Brandon.
Hard
Soul growing up.
What are you guys? There's been a firing in the NHL. Were you shocked and surprised by
No.
the St. Louis coach?
No.
You weren't. You thought Chief was gone.
I talked to Dougie earlier this year with John Shannon, and we had a big, long talk about what they went through last year and different adjustments that they were going this year. And I'll just paraphrase what Dougie Armstrong told me, the general manager in St. Louis, was that there was equity built up in the Stanley Cup championship that remained. And Craig Berube had earned the right to come back and try to rectify what happened last year. That is all great, but it didn't scream like we're all in here. It was, he's got an opportunity to get off to a good start. And if there's not a good start, then there is going to be an acknowledgement and an avenue to see where they could go with that. So I wasn't surprised about Craig. I was rooting for him.
Do you think that that half the room was not listening to him?
It sounds like there was a disconnect between one player in particular and Jordan Kyrou, and if you follow hockey, you've seen the different fallout from his comments, almost being dismissive about the change, and then coming back and being booed by the fans, and acknowledging that he maybe didn't handle it right, and he could have done a better job in answering the question. But I think that Craig's a hard coach. He's a motivator more so than he is a tactical coach. And if you're not that type of person that responds very well, you're going to have trouble lasting a long time. Like that wears on you, right?
What do you think of this? And this is a really out there idea. What do you think of two head coaches? One that's a motivator and one that's X's and O's.
I think you have that in a lot of teams with assistant coaches who
could you have them as equals?
I think that's a really hard thing.
Don't you have that?
Somebody's got to be in charge. Because
you have that in the NFL?
Well, the motivator, the motivator is the guy that's going to be rah rah rah. Do you think he's going to sit back and go, "Oh yeah, tactical guy, you can coach the next 2 games"? Yeah, you're right. No, I just don't think it would work. Yeah, NFL there's a bit of like that, but NFL is almost two different teams.
Yeah, I agree. You got a defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and a head coach. And I agree. And I think
separation.
I don't know how much in common the defense and the offense have, where it's interchangeable in the NHL or in hockey. Everyone's got a, they're on the ice at the same time, whereas you don't have that in the NFL. But I don't like that idea. I mean, okay, let me ask you this, Lord Bagg. Have you ever been driving down the road and cab telling you where to go?
Never.
Okay, so then you wouldn't understand it. But if
you've
ever been,
I like backseat driver, somebody leaning over and
talking.
It's undermining. You show and somebody's told you where to go.
Yeah, they tell me. Jeff always tells me, "Wrap it up." Gary, I know it's a wrap it up.
I didn't realize until I went to your show that that's a real thing, that you get told when to wrap it up.
They tell you
And-
when they tell you when they like when do you want the light? And I ask for a light at 45 minutes and I ask for a light at 55 and I try to wrap it up around an hour. And then sometimes I go a little over and then they start flicking because they have to land another plane at some point or something like that. They get very excited.
And that's when Jeff, the pilot, comes into play, right? Like
Yeah,
he starts circling the room.
Yeah, he just says like, "Hey man, just trying to land this plane."
I'm running out of fuel here.
Hey, has anybody ever done this? Because there's so many people on an NFL team. You think anybody's ever dressed up as an NFL player and just stood on the sidelines for the whole game and not been noticed?
No, but it's a great idea,
Isn't it?
So you heard about the signal situation with the Michigan Wolverines, where the guy was going and stealing signals?
Yeah.
At all the different games. I don't know whether it was him in particular. I want to say it was him, but I also thought Gene Simmons' wife was from Saskatoon. But he was on the sidelines in another team's coaching gear, and was standing beside the next opponent, like on their sideline, standing there taking in all their signals. So that type of thing happened.
Fantastic.
Why wouldn't you do it? And who is the comedian? This hour is 22 minutes. He snuck into the team photo at the out.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yeah, Sean Majunder.
Yeah, Shawnee.
Yeah.
And he snuck into the team picture at the outdoor, the first ever outdoor game at Commonwealth Stadium, with the Edmonton Oilers, and Shawnee got hammered for that.
He got
because he desecrated our game or whatever. But it was one of the greatest things in the world, and it wasn't even like Sean was dressed in the regular gear; he was dressed in pickup gear, and did it. So, but that's a good idea about the NFL thing.
I think it'd be really fun.
Just hop over and run onto the sidelines and just stand there. Imagine that you're standing beside the defensive lineman and he's looking at you going, "Who the hell are you?"
Right, just a tiny little guy, just like a even better. Sneak a little person in there, just put him in there.
I would like to see Sharples there in Denver Bronco gear, number 71, just standing there.
I did a movie at
maybe hockey.
Right. I did a movie at the University of Montana, and we were on the sidelines for their game dressed in different stuff. And I was dressed as a mascot. It was a bull. I was dressed as a bull.
So we couldn't tell who you were.
They couldn't tell. Like I wasn't from either team, right? Like, but you couldn't tell who I was. But they had to come over and say, "Hey, you're confusing people here because you're not on the right thing and you're doing cheers and stuff." Like they
shut you down.
They shut us from filming the movie down. They're like, "I just got to come. Can you wait until I
Didn't you have approval to shoot the movie?"
Yeah, we had approval. Yeah, it was all approved. So,
but you were confusing people.
Yeah, well, the people in the stands didn't know, and then the referees got confused, and it's football's stupid.
I wonder why the referees are paying attention to the bull mascot.
Probably because I was on the field.
Were you?
Yeah, I was on the field. Like I was supposed to be on the sidelines, and every so often I'd sneak onto the field. That's how we got
it. Can Sharples and I be in your next movie?
Yes,
like cameos.
Absolutely.
We don't want any real roles. We just want cameos.
You guys have to be. Guys would be 2 sports announcers. I'm gonna make everything that I make from now on is gonna have 2 sports announcers that just don't make sense in the movie, and it's gonna be you 2.
Perfect, just like we do on this.
Well, but it'd be like
it's not a real stretch.
It'd be a movie about a race car driver, and then we'd have you 2 talking about hockey in the middle of it
for 40 minutes.
Yeah,
not making sense.
Not making sense. And that's why you got to put a little sensor in the puck to get it across the line.
Well, we never really got to the end of that, but I'll just say this. It's kind of sad that there's so much that goes into trying to decide whether the puck went over the line or didn't, and we have innovation that could help us figure that out.
No, we don't have innovation, or else it wouldn't be done.
I don't believe that.
Well, don't you think that if it could be done, if the technology existed, that it would be done? All I hear from all the experts on the different panels is, we have the technology. Why don't we do this? There's enough innovation that's happened. Well, obviously it hasn't, or else we would have done it.
Did you just call me an expert? Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yes.
I'll tell you why. Because Gary Bettman.
I think there's a better way. There's a better way to make the mousetrap, and I don't know. I just
We
think,
haven't
I think
perfected
it's
the
our,
mousetrap. I've had mice before, and they're
just
slippery
saying.
little buggers.
Slippery? Is
They're
that what you said?
smart.
Yeah.
Those aren't
Hey,
mice.
let me ask you though. Let's move on. I want to ask you about someone that I read
Jeff
about
wants
the
to
other
move
day.
on.
No, I want to ask about DJ Smith because
Yeah.
we talked about Chief. We talked about Coach Berube, who did a hell of a job in St. Louis and will land on his feet, no problem again. DJ Smith. So I asked Millard about
You knew
DJ
that was
Smith.
happening. As soon as that team was bought, you know his days were numbered.
Well, but you know what? People might not know about DJ Smith, and I didn't before talking to Millard about him, is what kind of person he is. And and then reading articles after he was let go, the sports reporters on Ottawa and around the league, how much they appreciated him.
Yeah.
So Millard, why don't you talk? Yeah,
he's well
talk about
respected
him.
within the coaching community, well respected from the media. So DJ Smith, my wife's been on this podcast a lot, but she grew up sort of in the same group as DJ. They at the lake and things like that. Their families knew each other, so there's a connection there with my family and DJ. Last time I talked to DJ was when I was hanging out with you guys at the draft in Nashville. Bumped into DJ, and we had a good long talk, and he was very upfront. Look, it's great. The team's being sold. It wasn't finalized by then, but I got to win, and if I don't win, it's going to be a challenge to continue. If I win, I'm gonna be good. So he was very conscious of that. He wasn't running away from. I've put in my time here. I battled through different things, and I've earned the right to do this and keep my job. He was upfront. He had to keep winning, and they were victimized by a soft schedule to start. They didn't have a chance to really get into any rhythm. Then they went overseas, and that was hard on them. And the optics of being in last place in the Eastern Conference, because they hadn't played as many games as everybody else by a long shot, started impacting the vibe publicly. It then I don't know whether it infected the play, but they hit a bit of a speed bump with 4 straight losses, and all of a sudden you're really behind the 8 ball, and they weren't comfortable losses. So I understand why it happened. I'm with you. Like, ownership change, it leads you right to that. Then there was the general manager change, and it had all the makings of a switch behind the bench.
But I understand all that, but a lot of these coaches, or at least,
with it.
No, I think it's great. I think I don't know if a lot of people know DJ Smith, and like you, obviously you do, and can appreciate what kind of person he was. You know, one of the things that I thought when I read about the beat writers that follow the Ottawa Senators, where they always said that he always made time, he was always polite, and he was always professional, no matter how good, how high the highs were, how low the lows were, which I think is a hallmark of, you know, shows what kind of person he is. The thing that surprised me about Ottawa and watching them here the other night when Vegas, turned it on them pretty good, is you hear that all the players really, really liked them. Like, you don't always hear that with, I mean, there's some coaches like, when Gerard Gallant was let go with the Knights, the players really liked him. But they were the Knights were a lot more successful. Obviously, the wins and losses added up. I just don't know how he couldn't get more out of that team. It's a little surprising that the players all liked them.
Their structure was very good. You watched them the other night against Vegas. I watched them a little bit more around the league. Their structure hasn't been good, and their goaltending hasn't been great. And that goes to not being a great goalie environment. Vegas is a great goalie environment. Los Angeles is a team that, if you're a goaltender, that you would love to play in. And that's a great example. Last year, Cam Talbot struggled in Ottawa. They let him go. And he ends up in Los Angeles, and he's got all-world numbers. Los Angeles acquired Korpisalo at the trade deadline last year, try to push them through. And he's now in Ottawa, and his numbers are not very good. So that shows you that the environment, structure, being able to lean on things when it's not going great, needs some work in Ottawa. And that defensively, that would be the number one area that I would think Jacques Martin would be conscious of right now.
What do you think of that, of going back to Jacques Martin? Why do they seem to live in that one era?
I like it. It's long enough that waters passed into the ocean and got all the way across to Europe from like it's you hear what I'm saying there?
I think you're saying the water's gone under the bridge and we need to move on,
Yeah,
but
and it's out
I'm
to
not
sea.
sure.
Yeah,
He said several bridges is what he said.
Yeah, evidently, and it's in Europe now. So
Going under a bridge.
but he's a holdover from the glory days.
Mhm.
Daniel Alfredson's back, so I think is there some PR there for sure.
Right.
But these aren't. It's a new owner that wasn't connected to that time period. It's a new president of hockey operations in Stevie Steos that wasn't connected to that era. So it's not the just pure old boys club leaning on their buddies. And I think Jacques a good coach. He's
Good
won
point.
championships as an assistant coach
Good
in
point.
the time that he was a head coach. So I like
Very
it. And I
good
don't know
point.
whether it's going to be full time.
Point taken. Bridge.
I feel like we're on that ESPN show Around the Horn right now, where Mallard's getting all the points, and he's going to win this round.
I think you're
well,
awesome.
Well, what you said their structure wasn't there, but who would have been? Well, who do you think it was? DJ Smith's problem with not putting that structure together?
He's the head coach. If he sees the team playing loose, then he has to acknowledge it.
But why are they not? Why do you think they're not responding to him to get it tighter?
Well, they're young, they're talented, and they're growing. It's no different than what Detroit's gone through at times this year, even though they've taken a bigger step than that group with Buffalo and Ottawa.
So do you think he was doing a bad job, or do you think they just needed?
I don't think they were seeing enough progress. They weren't seeing enough progress.
They weren't. Okay, there wasn't enough progress.
No.
Well, if you look at where DJ came from before, he came from Toronto, not exactly known as a defensive juggernaut, right? I mean, when you think of the Leafs, you're not thinking defense. Whereas you look at a guy like Bruce Cassidy, came out from the Bruins to the Knights, and you think about structure and and defense with Boston. He brought that out to Vegas, and he's been successful here. So he'll live and learn, and I'm sure he'll be back behind the bench in some capacity when he's ready to go again.
I'll be curious to see what Buffalo does now. You finally got a team in the Eastern Conference make a change, because everything had been out west. I know Columbus technically made a change early, and they're in the West, Ian.
Wow.
There's somebody's listening to this podcast for the first time that thinks we're completely out of our minds.
They're absolutely right.
I hope they are. Yeah, I hope they are.
Yeah, we do. Like you guys should embrace first-time listeners. I don't know why you don't, but I think we'll see whether there's a bump here from Ottawa, because if that happens, they're back in the mix, and Buffalo can't wait much longer before they're going to be in real dire straits.
Their win last night lets them score all their goals in one night for the season. So it's Buffalo. Does Buffalo
last night, didn't they?
What's that?
Did Buffalo not allow 9 last night?
They allowed all the goals.
Yeah.
Buffalo's in trouble.
Well, you would think that
they're in trouble against. Did I say that they scored all their goals, or they let all the goals in last night? But they also let them against Columbus.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think relegation might be in order for Buffalo. Like they got to go to the AHL for a while.
Buddy, I have got into the Premiership because Bill Foley, our owner in Vegas, bought Bournemouth a year and a half ago. So I've started following it a lot more. And outside of not having playoffs, I think the Premiership tables, the point standing, is really cool. The way teams are dropped if you're in the bottom 3 of the standings.
I think it's cool too. I think
that would be good, and that allows you to have more expansion in the National Hockey League. You can get up to 40 teams, but there's only 32 in the league at one time. I think there's an avenue there that you could take. Would be really neat.
I know. This is the way. If you're a first time listener, this is the way our brain works. We bounce all over the place. There is a problem, right, with the league. The Stanley Cup is amazing. The Stanley Cup playoffs are amazing. The regular season is in trouble. Like there's 80 games, for
Well, I think it's good this year. You've
But-
got teams making coaching changes already because there's so much parity because of the flat cap the last couple of years.
but still at the same time, what's the regular season aim for? It's to get the teams into the playoffs for the Stanley Cup. There's got to be something that's they're winning that makes it more
You
important.
want an in-season tournament? I like
Yeah,
that.
I want an in-season.
Yeah.
I think you know what? It'd be great if whoever won the President's Trophy got $2 million extra on their salary cap next year.
Oh,
Like something that gets it exciting. And I also think there should be a tournament halfway through. Yeah.
I do too. I
Good.
think
what are
an
you gonna
in-season club tournament would be awesome.
Right.
But wouldn't you say though that if you did that, and then you have to play playoff hockey in the in-season tournament, right? And I would agree with Ian. Well, we've always said money's going to dictate more games, not less. But the issue is like you look at the season right now. There's some teams like Colorado's kind of hit the skids a bit. Vegas hasn't been as good in the last week or two as they had, and they were 7-2-1. That's saying something, but you're starting to see teams flatten out, and the season's so long that give them something to play for in the middle, and then it's a sprint to the finish.
What if the outdoor games had some sort of trophy that you won, or some sort of championship that you won for the outdoor game?
I like what the NBA did. Their in-season tournament games all counted towards the regular season. You just were able to compile points in that particular segment, leading towards a tournament, and then in the end there was 3 games played that weren't involved in the season schedule. 3 games out of that entire in-season tournament, the 2 semifinals and the final that were played in Vegas. It was very minimal as far as forcing players to do more than's already on the schedule, and they were compensated accordingly.
Nice.
Well, wouldn't you, if you're going to compensate, Ian, and you're going to give $2 million on the cap, why don't you just tier it down to the top 10 or whatever, or top? There's 16 teams that make it. Instead of giving $2 million on the cap, right, which is good, give a bonus to the players too. Like like make it.
Yeah, they would need that
incentivize. The idea is great, but incentivize. And I know what people would say. Well, some of these guys are already making millions. So I'm like, money is a great equalizer, man. People.
When was the last time that you tell me your reaction the last time you put on a jacket and found $20 in it, $50?
Right.
That feels good.
Yeah. Especially when it's somebody else's jacket.
Yes.
Man,
that might be the funniest thing I've heard you say, and you're a really funny guy.
Yeah. Fat man, skinny coat.
Oh
I'm
my
gonna
God.
go around trying everybody's jacket on at work today.
Oh, yeah. Look at that. It's a 20 man. Oh, wallet, man.
I would probably start with Shane's, but then you better hope Shane doesn't catch you if you do it. So
Shane likes the fitted pose.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to work on me.
No.
Yes, it will.
He's rich.
Hey, so Millard,
he'll have money in his pocket for sure.
Since this is the big Christmas edition.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, this is it before Christmas, and then you're either doing this one or Boxing Day, and maybe you'll do both. But
I think we should just have you every week and keep you off the bike.
We're going to do an intervention. This is how we're going to help you.
My wife will be so sour with you.
Your wife has asked us to do the podcast every day and just talk. We're not even putting it out there. We're just talking to you, pretending to keep you off the bike.
It's not even recording. Why isn't this recording?
We're just sitting here just talking. This is really just FaceTime. Give us 3 teams that are on their way up as we head into the Christmas break and New Year, as you know, because things start to ramp up after we come out of the Christmas break, and 3 teams that you're maybe not concerned about or not on the way down, but 3 teams that are going to do what maybe is forecast for them.
Yeah, I think the Rangers are a nice surprise. From the start of the year, Boston continues to impress me. I'm not sure that qualifies as a team on the way up, but everything that they've done from the start of last year to right now continues to go against what I expected. So even though they're battling for a President's Trophy, I would still put them in there. Los Angeles, I think, is one of the most underrated teams in the National Hockey League. And Winnipeg. Winnipeg has shown the ability to turn the page from a tumultuous summer in which they let a veteran go and then waited and did those last second contracts with a couple of high-profile players. And those may not be great at the end of the contracts, but they've got a bump out of those signings with Scheifele and Hellebuck, and I've really been impressed with Winnipeg Jets. Underachieving teams, I'm still waiting for. I don't know whether Washington, even though they're flirting with a playoff spot, can actually do it without production from Ovi. And I've been. One thing that's jumped out at me that I don't think has got a lot of legs is there's been no disruption around that team, despite the handful of goals from Ovi. If that's any other year, that's becoming a league story, and it's probably becoming a league story because Ovi's not happy, his representatives aren't happy, and his buddies aren't happy, and it's getting out there. But have you guys heard any noise about conflict in Washington with the new head coach? That's impressive. So, but I don't know whether they can really do it long term. Calgary, I thought they'd be better, and there's still more to come with the distraction of those contracts with that team. And the other one is the Anaheim Ducks. They're up, they're down, they're up, they're down. I don't still with Greg Cronin in there, who finally gets a shot at coaching. I love that fact. At 60 years old, he's getting his first shot. I still don't know what they are. And Pat Verbeek told me a couple of weeks ago on a different outlet. He said it's a process here. They're not ready to challenge yet, but the inconsistency there is really fascinating.
It is
Those are my three.
really fascinating.
Yeah. No, I would agree 100% with you. Anaheim's a team that you're looking for them to break on through, and they win 6 or 7 in a row and they lose 10 in a row.
Yeah.
And now they just won 2 in a row. And we talked about it before on the podcast about you and your podcast at Chirp. Greg Cronin interview is one of the most it's one of my favorite interviews, mostly because you're on it, but that I've ever listened to. The guy couldn't be any more direct and honest. And you know what? I played against him years ago, and I'd love to see the man do well. It's just the peaks and valleys in Anaheim this year are exactly that. They're way up and they're way down.
And I don't know whether it's because they had guys miss camp and they were a little bit out of sync, but it's been more dramatic than I expected.
But how about like on the upside? And I know we got to get going here soon, or I got it. But Philly has been a really.
The truth. I gotta get going.
I gotta go. No,
but Philly calling me.
Philly has been a really pleasant surprise. I think they've been fantastic. And on the Western Conference, you know, if we eliminate Columbus, my Western Conference one would be Winnipeg.
Yeah, I like Philly. I like what Torts has done there. But that's a team that acknowledged in the playoffs last year when they brought in Keith Jones, when Danny was hired on as general manager, like they were rebuilding. And I know they got 2 players back that hadn't played, and the influence of Couturier and Atkinson has been large, and they've got great goaltending. But this is a franchise that openly to a very passionate and intense fan base said we're rebuilding in the midst of chaos, which it was. Is this really what the Philadelphia Flyers are? They're a great story, but I don't know whether there's legs to push this thing through.
That's interesting.
That's interesting. When you watch them come through here, you would agree, and they kind of remind me a little bit of the work ethic of like when the Blues won the Cup and the way Coach Ruby, they're kind of cut out of that cloth. Yeah, where
same type of coach.
They just work so hard, and you have to ask yourself over the course of 82 games and playoffs year after year after year if that's sustainable. But Torts doesn't care. Torts only worries about today, and that's I think where the brilliance is in what they're doing so far this season. The team seems to have bought in, and when I saw them come through Vegas, we only see them once a year, watch them on TV. They worked their tails off. And
I don't know whether there's another level there, Sharps. They're playing great.
True.
But can
But their
they
goalie,
take, when everybody else goes up, is there another level there? And like Sean Walker
Mhm.
is another great acquisition, under the radar guy. But he's done a great job coming in on that blue line when they sent Provorov out. There's been great personnel adjustments that they've made with that team. Large because they got players back from injury, smaller Sean Walker's influence. But I don't know whether when the back half of the season comes and you're in the midst of the battle, is there another 5% there with that team, or are they already redlining?
Yeah, well,
I think they are redlining. Like I believe they're red, but at the same time, why not?
Sure, no, it's still a good story,
like,
right?
You're still rebuilding,
Yeah.
but why not? Like, why not bring that coach in to have them redline until you get to everything you want, and then they take the foot off.
The thing is, they play in tight games every night, and they've been able to show they can win a low-scoring game, which is the kind of game you're going to need to win from time to time during the season when you're not getting the bounces, and their goaltending's good. And we'd be remiss if we didn't bring up the on a team that's been a huge surprise, or maybe not a surprise, but good to see them playing so well. Another team would be Vancouver. Just like you watch Vancouver play, when I watch them play, I see a team that is trying to play a playoff style and trying to get to a certain way they play. And most nights they're very effective at doing it, and their goaltending has been fantastic.
And then there's the Western juggernaut Columbus, who cannot. Why are they so bad? Like, I know they won big time last night, but they're horrible. They're really, really. I think he's frozen. He's stuck. I think he's frozen. That's awesome. He doesn't even want to talk about it. That's how bad he feels about it. I love it. See?
Oh, he's gone. Is he gone?
Hold on. He's back.
Is he coming back?
He's coming back.
That was a great. I hope we get a screenshot of that.
I'm
going to put that on my phone.
Hi, guys.
I got it.
He's there. He is.
That's the greatest. Yeah, you got to keep that. So
it was awesome.
Was that my freeze frame?
That was your freeze.
That was good. You did a good job. So
I could see it going. Sharple started going, and then you guys were frozen. I'm like, please click back into gear. Please click back. Please click back. And then I was out. Like
it was very Columbus. It was very Columbus. Like we were doing well, and then we weren't. I don't know. What do you do there? What do you do in Columbus to change? Because there is a dark cloud over that organization. Do you redo this with jerseys? Like, do you put a new clock into the building? Do you start with something simple like that?
New cannon?
You take out the cannon is what you do. You take out the fucking.
You don't like the cannon? So here's the story about the cannon. My buddy Doug McLean was the president and GM there for a while. He said, I knew I was going to be fired. It was coming.
Right.
So marketing had been talking about this bloody cannon for a while, but it was going to cost a lot, like to get a Civil War replica cannon.
Right.
And I knew I was headed out the door, so I signed the papers on that thing.
That's really funny, though.
And let them pay for it as I went out the door. And so we call it the Doug McLean cannon.
I call it at least one person shits their pants a game. That's what it is. It should be called the Skitter cannon.
I did an all-star game there, and it was 3-on-3, and that thing went out. They had to run out of the gunpowder by the end of it.
It was shot more than it was during the Civil War.
Yeah, almost. Are you allowed to make Civil War jokes? Are we allowed to do that as three Canadians?
I think if we all get together, we have one passport for America.
Sharples, do you have your green card?
No,
you're full
card
on
carrying. Yep.
Bagg, are you full on?
I'm green carded, but I'm getting my citizenship this year.
Are you?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, congratulations!
I'm gonna get.
I'll be there for that. I'm
gonna wear a suit on stage that night, so Jeff buys me a meal.
I'd be worried about whether they say, does anybody here have objection, like at the wedding when you're like holding your breath, whether Sharple stands up and go, orange slices.
Wrong. Orange slices. I got a question.
Look at the Christmas episode. Orange slices.
That's right. Our big, no trees, no lights, but
Why would he do
yeah, well, that's good.
I
How
didn't
about
know
you,
you were a
Mellor?
full citizen. That's outstanding.
Oh yeah, you can carry your 2 passports and call it good. Absolutely. Well,
What's the
that's how it
process,
works.
Bagg? What do you have to do?
You have to study a little bit and then take a test.
Have you studied yet?
No, that's why I'm saying this year. It's coming in 2024. I'm going to.
Is that at the end of the year in May?
Yeah, actually, it's halfway through February. And by the way, I said May. It's April. I'm going up to Winnipeg. You guys, you should come on. Jeff's trying to come up. They're playing Vancouver. I think it's April 18th. You should come on this trip. We should all hang out.
Okay, Vancouver on April 18th.
Yeah,
I'd love to do that.
and then I'm doing I think 4 shows. So
Really?
yeah, Jeff can
I-
get you tickets on Alaska.
I still laugh about going to Nashville.
So
being on
much
the phone.
fun.
I'm here to see Ian Bagg. We don't have you on the list. Like, okay. Ian, they don't have us on the list. Then you came around the side door and brought us in. And everybody from that was there, Katie and Garrett, they loved it because they got to go in the green room.
Love
in
it.
Nashville.
Good.
And they
love it.
still talk about that.
Well, I'm
Until
coming
they
out.
leave.
I'm coming out. I think the first weekend in March. I'm doing 4 shows in Vegas. So
No way.
yeah. So write that down. Please bring whoever you want to bring. So it's going
That's
to be fun.
awesome. My wife
Yeah.
is really excited because she's never seen you in person or
Oh.
on stage.
Yeah,
Oh boy.
So her and treat Carlos well. He's like,
So we'll have to get Carlos there as well.
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Well, she'll probably go once with me and once with Carlos.
Table for 3.
Carlos and I get along well, but somebody's got to stay home.
Somebody's got to stay home and take care of
That's
the pool.
right.
Exactly.
Somebody's got to be cleaning the pool all the time. I love it. But that'd be a fun trip because we did the Nashville trip last year. We should, you know where I really want to go? I want to go to Phoenix. I want to go to that building.
Ooh.
I want to see a game there. Have you been?
Yep. It's
And,
awesome.
and will they be around next year?
But hey,
Yeah.
they might get a playoff game there.
Oh,
Imagine if they won a series and then tried to go back to Gila River because they could sell more tickets. And Gila River says, "You want to put a second round series in here? Go stuff your shorts." But they might get a playoff round in that
what if
arena.
here's the biggest thing. We'll just put it out there and like try to make things come true like Oprah. What
Yeah.
if they were in the Stanley Cup finals?
They can't
in
because
that building.
that competes with Vegas, and I can't support that.
Oh, but just think about don't just think building.
Western Conference Final, I'm in.
Okay.
Wouldn't that be something? Oh boy.
We went to the Stanley Cup finals and we made $10,000 because we only had 5,000. Every other
Imagine how much per ticket. It would be the highest per ticket event in NHL history.
absolutely.
There's 13 rows of seats. 13
rows. Yeah.
13? Holy
Yeah.
shit.
You know how the family would have to, like at the last game, the families would be in a different building. They'd have to celebrate in a different building.
Well, the players are. The dressing rooms are in a different building.
Oh,
Yeah, they got to walk outside there, don't they?
Yeah.
it's kind of fun.
You're in a
weird
different
way.
building. You walk 5 feet. There's a little gap between the two buildings, and the visiting team walks through that inside the building, past the concession stand,
Love it.
and then down the players' hallway and onto the ice.
I love
It's
that they only have one
outstanding.
concession stand. That's even
And
better.
then there's Gary Bettman presenting a trophy
yes.
at the end.
Yes.
After you pass Nacho Daddy, you get into the arena.
And the cup is filled with nacho cheese because they didn't have enough room to keep it in the building unless they used it as a cup to
Concession.
serve people. Love
That's
it.
good.
All right, we got to get Jeff out of here. He's
Okay.
got to get to the arena and teach kids how to skate.
Yeah.
We do shout outs. Do you want to do any? Do you want to do a shout out? We end the show with a shout.
Yeah, go for it, Millard. You start us off.
I will give a shout out to you two great gentlemen just for your friendship. This is the Christmas show that I've just learned, and my coming across you guys in my life has been not only influential from a learning things from what Bagg does and what Sharples does, but your passion for our game. So I absolutely sincerely appreciate you guys being.
I think we should just wrap it up with that.
Yeah, I don't know how we do that. Love talk.
No. Talk about the Columbus coaching situation. I dare you.
Jeff, you want to go next? Or do you want me?
You go ahead.
I'm going to give a shout out to everybody that tunes into this podcast. We've done about 3 years now. We appreciate you listening to our conversations about hockey that are going to happen even if you don't tune in. So we love it that you do tune in. Make sure you go on to ianbagg.com and get yourself an Enjoying Orange Slices t-shirt.
They're the best. I have one. They're the best.
They're good, right?
They're comfy. Yeah. I'm gonna ride shotgun with you on that. Shout out Lord Bagg. I'm just gonna give myself the first assist and let you score the goal on that one. That's my shout out this week. I'll just leave it at that. So
awesome.
I think that's more of a secondary assist that bounced off your shin.
Well, I'll take them. Hey, they don't ask how, they just ask how many, right, Millard? So
people should know Sharples can still shoot. When we
go
out, and the odd time he'll demonstrate a drill, I get really excited when he shoots because it's a rocket. And there's not an ounce of joke in that. That dude has a rocket of a release.
Well, just to let you know, Sharples can also turn me into a 12-year-old kid when I go on the ice with him, and I can't do anything right because he's got me all nervous. And he mocks me like a 16-year-old asshole.
That's his safe spot. This is not his safe spot. This podcast is not a safe spot. But out there, he takes control.
Hey, you know what's funny though is Millard doesn't believe a word you said because I'm out there all the time and I treat him like Waterford crystal, fine crystal out there. And so I don't know what you're talking about, LB. Right? I'm not chirping anybody out there.
No, you're very above board and complimentary.
That's right. And G-rated. G-rated.
Congratulations. I don't know what you did wrong, Lord Bagg.
All right, I better go. I guess I got to sign papers before I go to the ice now, so I better run.
All right, love to all. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, everybody.
Love to all.